talk about the DC ecosystem, the pros and the cons and some of the characteristics that might be different, as well as some resources that you guys can tap into. Quick question, how many of you are from DC, Maryland, Virginia, the DMV? And how many are not from the DMV? So more that are not from here than are, okay. Well, the DC, Maryland, Virginia ecosystem is a unique animal because you have 3 jurisdictions. You have 2 states and a district, and each state has jurisdictions called counties. So you have Maryland, for example, has Montgomery County, Howard County, Prince George's County. And in Virginia, we have Arlington County, Alexandria City, Fairfax County, Loudoun County. So you have a multitude of different geographic, but more importantly, political jurisdictions that require you to navigate through. And because we are multiple jurisdictions, we don't get the force multiplier of being in one place at one time like we do in Silicon Valley, for example, or Austin, Texas, or even New York City. So one of the drawbacks of the DC ecosystem is that there's a lot of duplication of efforts. And I'm going to go into some resources that you can tap into, universities and co-working spaces and accelerators and whatnot. But that's one thing you're going to have to get used to. It's almost like there's a conflict, unstated maybe, between Virginia and Maryland for reasons that make no sense. But I'm just curious, how many of you live in Maryland? And how many of you live in DC and Virginia? So mostly Maryland and DC. Okay. Well, the ones, you guys will know what I'm talking about, right? Like Virginia is a foreign country to most of you. And then for you guys from Virginia, Maryland's a foreign country. So that's definitely something that, or you can be like the folks on our panel who kind of traverse the Beltway all day long and go to all 3 jurisdictions. For example, this morning I was in DC, then I went to Fairfax County, and then I went to Georgetown, and then I came here. So, you have to be ready to do business anywhere. One of the things about living in the DC region, though, and you guys will get this because you're all going to be starting companies or we're thinking about it, is that we have tremendous assets here. We have perhaps the most educated workforce in the country, perhaps one of the most affluent pools of employees in the country here. We have world-class institutions, universities as well as governmental institutions. We have a great quality of life for the most part. We have the federal government here, which is our sugar daddy, which is the largest purchaser of anything in the world.
75 billion a year is what
right.
around here.
So having that kind of as our safety net. Hey Neil, how are you? Having that as a safety net is something we should never take for granted. For example, when I go to Arizona or New Hampshire or St. Louis, they don't have anything like this. They're Detroit, they're struggling. They don't have like this federal government that's here, that's this whole ecosystem around the government, not just buying stuff, but the whole lobbying, legal infrastructure that goes with having a capital city here is something that really we benefit from tremendously. So, I've started several businesses here in the region. These gentlemen and lady have started several businesses here, and I'm sure that there's a lot of divergence of opinion in terms of the benefits. I think DC is a wonderful place to start a business for the reasons I mentioned earlier. Generally, when you start a business, and I'm speaking more for technology companies, you want to go to a place where there's ample capital, so angel capital as well as institutional venture capital, as well as exit capital. You want to go to a place where there's some technology talent that allows you to build your businesses if you're in the tech business. So that said, I'm just curious, how many of you have gone to school in this region? So a good chunk, maybe a fifth of you. So I'll start with the schools. Every university pretty much in this region has a entrepreneurship program. Whether it's University of Maryland, Terrapins in here, Georgetown, GW, AU, Howard, George Mason, just go right down the list.
Johns Hopkins.
Johns Hopkins, exactly, Neil. And Hopkins has a lot of money as well. They do a great job. So that's one place where you can start in terms of getting resources. I mean, as a founder of a company, you want a few things, right? You want knowledge, which you would get from Founder Institute. You want some mentorship, which you would get from Founder Institute, as well as from different resources within the ecosystem. And you need some capital, angel capital, or what I call FF and F, friends, family, and fools. But at some point, when you get your idea matured, you want to be in an area where you've got a little team built and you're ready for angel money. So you want to be in a market like the DMV where there's lots of angels. And so going back to the universities have entrepreneurship centers, which in some cases, like University of Maryland, they have actually an angel group called Dingman Angels. They have a Dingman Center for Entrepreneurship where they actually mentor people inside the Maryland community as well as outside the Maryland community. And I definitely would recommend that it's generally low cost or free advice to go in and talk to professors and the directors of these programs and whatnot. So I would definitely start with universities. I think with respect to economic development corporations, so Montgomery County has an economic development corporation, Fairfax County has their economic development corporation, Arlington County as well. Those economic development corporations, their sole goal in life is to create jobs. And they know that you guys in the room, the entrepreneurs of the world, are the ones that are creating jobs. So they're incentivized to help you. And they can help you in different ways. They have lots of different programs. You have to check it out, your jurisdiction. But for example, Montgomery County has things in the life sciences realm. You have things like the biotech tax credit. You have subsidies for rental space, so if you rent lab space or office space. So each economic development jurisdiction has its own different set of resources. So that's definitely something that I think is very unique here in DC that we don't have in other regions. As far as co-working space, I'm only allowed to talk about WeWork because we're here at WeWork. We're big fans of WeWork, and WeWork's a big sponsor of our CONNECTpreneur program. But you can go on Google co-working spaces. I'll leave it at that because I don't want to talk about other co-working spaces in the market, with the exception of two. One is called 1776. You guys, I see you have one on your computer. 1776. They have a campus in Crystal City, Virginia, a campus right here on 15th Street. And then they are focused on certain sort of pillars within technology, like smart cities, government services, transportation, I believe. They have several fintech, edtech, so they have certain pillars. If those are the kind of pools where you guys are swimming, you may want to consider going there. It's sort of like this, it's open floor plan, but you get some synergy from working with other entrepreneurs. You get some potential synergies from working with other ed tech people. If you're in ed tech, you have lots of events like we're doing here tonight, and it's good networking. Another one is a government-focused incubator, Eastern Foundry it's called. You guys know Eastern Foundry? They're in Crystal City. Are any of you planning to do a startup that will be selling products or services to the federal government? Nobody. Okay. Well, if you were, Eastern Foundry has about 50 companies in Crystal City, and they opened up another campus in Arlington, in Roslyn. So that would be another one. I did want to give those guys some mention. And then the third one I would mention is a incubator called Mach 37. Are you guys familiar with Mach 37? That's a cybersecurity focused incubator out by Dulles Airport. It's in the Center for Innovative Technology building. It's a part of the Commonwealth of Virginia CIT. CIT is also a resource. If you are in Virginia and you plan to build your business in Virginia, they have money as well. It's called they have money through their GAP funds, GAP funds, Center for Innovative Technology. Maryland has a sister organization called TEDCO, TEDCO. TEDCO has the Maryland Venture Fund as well as pockets of money where they can invest anywhere from 50 grand to 200 grand in your startup. Talking about the federal government briefly, the federal government does have programs that would allow you to build out technology. So SBIR programs as part of the Small Business Administration. NIH has several programs. Rosemary probably knows there's several programs in NIH. The DoD has programs as well. Pretty much all the major government agencies that are looking for innovative ideas and commercial best practices, they have programs where they will throw some money at you. It's R&D grants for the most part, But hey, you guys might be in that stage where you're building a product out and you might need that.
No less than
Yes.
$100 million.
$100 billion.
$100 million.
Right.
So the NIH, for example, gives out $30 million, DOD gives out $50 million. These are all grants.
And National Science Foundation is also another one, right?
And you don't have to pay them back.
You don't have to.
You don't have to pay them back.
So it's a grant.
Yeah. I'm just making sure.
Yep. So, I think that those are resources that we have, and they're right here in our backyard. So the entrepreneur out in Omaha, Nebraska doesn't have this. So we're very lucky to have that resource. Let's talk about events. So there are a lot of organizations in the market that do these great events, networking events, as well as opportunities which are more kind of specific to topics, big events and small events, right? So you want to look at Maryland Tech Council, for example, they do great events. The Northern Virginia Tech Council, the MAVA, Mid-Atlantic Venture Association. And if you look around, the Washington Business Journal does a good job, and so does DC Inno, in terms of publishing events that are going on in the market that you might want to go to, whether it's sector specific or stage specific or just beginner 101 or 201 type programs. We have no shortage of events here. I mean, we have event fatigue probably here in DC. And then, of course, our CONNECTpreneur event, I think, I'm biased, I think it's the best tech and investor networking event in the region.
It is.
Sure.
It is.
Thanks. And we've got some people here that have helped us and supported us along the way. CONNECTpreneur.org, and we have an event in Baltimore on November 16th, an event in Falls Church, Virginia on December 13th. So we do 2 a year in Baltimore, 2 in Bethesda, and 2 in Northern Virginia. So check us out, CONNECTpreneur.org. If you want to come as a complimentary guest, maybe Reagan in the red over here, see her. We'll try to accommodate as many people as possible. I know you guys are a tight budget and everything. And then want to talk a little bit about capital. So there are angel investment groups in the market as well as individual angels. So you could have an individual angel like a John Holiday, or you might have an angel group. And angel groups are basically pooling people who have been successful, made some money, or have sold businesses who are now wanting to invest through a group because there's sort of wisdom of the crowds. And then some of the members of the group might have specific domain expertise in a certain sector, and they can kind of share their knowledge in the due diligence process, and then the other investors come in. So some of the angel groups that you can check out include the Dingman Center for Entrepreneurship has the Dingman Angels. Blue Venture Investors in DC might be one of the most prolific groups. They do about 15 deals a year. You have Next Gen, which is, they just raised a fund. It started with a group of investors under the age of, was it 30 or 40? They were young. Maybe it was 30 and then under 40, and then they raised a $20 million fund. So Next Gen Ventures is a group. New Dominion Angels is another group. They merged with a group of John May, who's sort of the dean of angel investing. He's in Virginia. It's called New Dominion Angels, and John merged his group, which was called New Vantage Group, into New Dominion. And so those are some examples of some angel groups. As far as the venture capital market goes, 15 years ago, we had more VCs that had more cash sitting around. There's been a lot going on, especially post-08, and a lot of the DC-based funds are not doing so well. Their inability to get big exits has hampered their ability to raise additional funds of size or any funds at all. So there are maybe 8 or 10 pretty active venture capitalists in the market, but I think they're much more selective than their cohorts out on the West Coast. That probably would not be as applicable to what you guys are doing, because as Rosemary Marie showed earlier, there's a certain stage of maturity of a company before you get institutional capital. That's pretty much it for my comments. Do we have time for a few questions if you have any, and then we'll turn it over to the panel. But any questions on the ecosystem? Yes, sir. Oh, we'll go here first. Yes.
My name is Tony Yo, and I have questions. So to find, I guess the part of the ecosystem is the importance of the ecosystem is to be able to find talent. That's what I'm struggling the most. So where can I go, or what kind of networking is that? So I've been to a lot of meetups and whatnot, but there's really not much of, tech talents that I could find. If I'm not doing a good job enough, but is there any sites or things that you can recommend?
Right, I do. I would. So the tech companies I'm involved in actually do searches on. What was the question? Oh, the question is, where do I find great talent, essentially? And the answer is, you talking about contractor talent or full-time employee talent?
Well, I'm open to any ideas, right? I'm starting out, so.
Right. So when we're hiring, we actually list jobs on Craigslist and Backpage, and it works, believe it or not. I know it sounds ridiculous, but it does work. Facebook. Okay, there's a DC Tech group. Is anyone in the DC Tech group? Is everyone in the tech kind of field right now, or who's in non-tech? We've got a couple of you guys. Okay. Well, if you're in tech, you go to the DC Tech Facebook group, and there's also the DMV Startups group. And then there's also UX UI groups. There's a bunch of different coder groups within Facebook for DC. And then you got meetup.com, which has, a lot of different postings of, where a bunch of programmers will go out and get together for beers or whatever. And that's a good place to go as well.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
My question was, when is really the best time to start reaching out to angel groups? I'm personally Maryland.
Okay.
So my question is, I have a good relationship with tech, startup shell,
Yes.
and the England Center is smarter now. But,
Okay.
kind of like Rosemary said, the timing is always like customer or company based. So when do you really think is like the best time to start that conversation? As early as possible, pretty much when you know that you can raise how much you're looking for, or is there really not?
Okay, so no, I think the answer is always. The answer is always. If you have an opportunity to be an angel investor or a venture capitalist, take it. Because they've done a lot more than you know. They have a lot of experience, and they might add a perspective that you haven't thought about. So always, the other thing that's good about meeting a VC early on is they can, quote, monitor you. So as you achieve goals and hit milestones, by the time you go to them for capital, they'll know who you are. It's all about networking. In your, as an entrepreneur, your network is totally your network. And you need to network with capital sources all day long. Because capital sources come and go. Like I said earlier, the VC market here 15 years ago was pretty decent. Now I would say it's pretty dry. But if you feel like you have a good idea, you don't have to go to the angel and say, hey man, you bring your checkbook, right? I wouldn't do that. I would say, hey, I've got an idea and I want to get your feedback on my idea because you have a lot of experience, etc. And then just kind of talk and listen that way. And then as you mature your ideas, you hit some strides as you develop your product, as you build your team. At that point, you go back to the guy and say, hey, remember me? I'm looking for 50K or 100K or whatever. I don't know if there's an exact answer. I think Dave and John and Son, these guys have all raised. What do you guys think?
I had the same thought. It's always be raising, right?
Always be raising.
But it's a really good point, especially with the angels, but even with institutional, is simply meeting and backing off and not making a sales pitch and not going for money, but just getting their opinion, getting their ideas. You get on their radar. And you'll know. They'll tell you whether you're premature or whether you're there or to stay in touch. And they want to keep a pipeline of
That's right. They want that pipeline. They will take the
just like you need a pipeline of potential investors.
We have time for one more?
Sure.
I got a question.
Okay, why don't you go first? Yes. Was he first? Okay, go ahead.
So I'm a software developer, and I built an app, and I've been struggling finding a non-technical co-founder. So what are some strategies to find someone who has sales and marketing experience to partner with someone who's technical, who's built an app already?
Right, that's a great question, and I just want to make a comment, which is, there's a saying out there. Oh, I'm sorry. The question was, if I'm technical, how do I find a non-technical co-founder? And I was going to say that generally when you're doing a startup in technology, you want three people. You want a hacker, which is you, a hipster, who's a designer, and a hustler, who's your non-technical co-founder who can do the selling, etc. There's something called Co-Founders Lab. Have you heard of that?
No.
So Co-Founders Lab is a great platform by which you can meet other people. But I will say, if you're looking for founders, it's like looking for a spouse. You gotta make sure that connection is really good.
There's no like Tinder for this thing. There's no like Tinder.
There is no. I mean, there might be some Tinder, but I don't know
My
how long
company is called the Tinder for Startups.
Really?
That's the
Tinder
nickname
for
of the
Startups.
company.
Okay, we should.
Co-Founders Lab is probably the best place.
There you go, Co-Founders Lab. Yeah, they're kind of the best known, and I think I would go on Quora or Google and see if there are other Co-Founder Lab type sites. But I would just say be very choosy, and it's a chemistry thing, right?
Can I also add to that? So I'm a sales guy. I have no technical experience.
Oh, then you guys should get married.
Okay, yeah.
I also am doing pretty good where we are too. But I guess to just speak from my side, I have the same challenge, right? That it's hard to find technical people. So as I started getting more traction, more sales, it was significantly easier to find a technical co-founder. If he can do this by himself, I can build some cool code. We can do 20 times this. So I think if you're looking for a sharp sales guy or marketing guy, I think you should focus on making an app that's cool and inspirational as possible. Give me a reason to want to go and sell for it. Because other than that, I know how to sell. I'm just going to go sell something else. And I'm motivated by money, not by necessarily joining up on somebody else's idea. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I guess my problem is I'm always surrounded by tech people, and I'm never surrounded by sales and marketing.
That's great.
I'm like, where do I even find a salesperson to, harass them about my app? I don't even know where they exist.
Business schools. Business schools too.
Yeah, I find a lot of hard recruits out in Maryland startups. These are guys that are usually looked over because they're not qualified. They want to work their ass off. So I'm sure.
No, that's good. No, this is good. Good
You're looking
conversation
at
for
it
sure.
at the end.
So I think that would be the other thing too. Is don't necessarily. I think hustler is a perfect word. You don't need a VP of sales today. You need someone who's going to make 100,000 hours. So that person might be in this room. You don't need to come.
If you're in this room, please talk to me.
So I'll mention one other thing. We've been trying to, for all the universities, try to get their business school and their medical school and their engineering school and all of their law school, all of them together. Because we've done that in other geographic regions. We did that in North Carolina, ad nauseum. And we were very successful in doing that and getting all of the different schools together in one spot at the same time to create teams. Because you need all of those skill sets.
Yes.
And basically, I'm the matchmaker. I go around and say, okay, law person, talk to this business person, and talk to this engineer.
That's where you're Tinder for startups. So see Rosemary. Looks like she
No,
could
but we're
play.
trying to do that here.
Yeah.
We actually have an event on Thursday, this coming Thursday, at the University of Maryland. If anyone wants to come, it's we're pulling together a bunch of different kinds of people. I have your email addresses. I can just email you all, and if you want to come, I'll tell you where it is. Okay. Sorry.
I think she was. You're good. Okay.
Yeah,
We have one more.
Okay, my
One more,
question was
okay,
about the angel investor you talked about,
Yes.
different group. I wanted to be a lot more specific. I mean, is that some group in which you go there, you have a list of angel investors ready to invest in businesses, or you got to get enrolled in a course, in order to have access to those.
All right, what's the question?
The Growth Incubator and Angel Investor Group.
Yes.
That's listed. It's is it an open house in which you go there and then all the investors are there for you to pitch your idea, or you don't have you can go through a process.
Right.
like a
So
course or
you see
whatever.
some. Right. That's a good question. So some law firms like Cooley, Walma Carlisle, they'll have sort of these demo days where the company looking for money will come in and meet with groups of angel investors. I don't know to what extent they're open to the public. Generally, there are not a whole lot of angel sort of pitch events. I mean, Angel Venture Forum has a lot of angels. Our event has a lot of angels, but it's not a formal come meet the angels. you almost have to do the legwork on your own, figure out who in the room is investing, and then try to network with them and impress them, etc.
As part of Founder Institute, what we do though is we set up 2 pitch sessions. One in the
And you
middle.
bring angels in for that? Oh, perfect. There you go. So it's like a demo days that they run.
And I think 1776 they do tours. So you go and you sign up and you go on like that, and that's how you get in. You don't go to the tours, and then you can talk to them and see if you're more interested.
That's good to know because
1776.
Yes.
you know how to proceed and what to expect.
Absolutely. It's critical. Yeah.
So,
So with
you
that,
guys give it up for Tia. She's awesome.